What's up, motherfuckers? After 8 games, the match between Artemiev and Basier Lagrave is still tied. So now it's time for the games of 3 minutes and 2 seconds per move. So let's analyze the first game of 3 plus 2, where after Artemiev goes with the white pieces and he opens with knight f3. So, and after knight c5 by Basier, he goes for an English opening, knight f3, the symmetrical, and now g3, knight c6, bishop d2, d5 by Basier Lagrave, good move, breaking the center, c takes, knight takes, and now white makes the same, breaking the centers too with d4. c takes, knight b4, knight c6, queen d1, king d1, and knight c6. And now we reach an endgame who, according to the machines, is equal. Maybe it's a little bit more pleasant for white because, okay, the e2 bishop is so good. So I can say that maybe it's a little bit more pleasant for white, but it's equal according to the machine, or so close to equal. Okay, here the first thing that after 93, okay, the white advantage is that he have the bishop develop on d2 and the extra tempo of g3 bishop d2, because of course black can play g6 followed by bishop d7, but white have an extra tempo. A part of the normal extra tempo that we have more one more extra tempo, and but in the other hand, the black advantage is that the king on the one cannot be castled. So in the endgame, sometimes is not bad, but in the specific endgame, you didn't want to have the king on the one. So here, the first thing that black should decide is where he's going to develop his bishop. Bishop f5 is the move that I know in this position, and later play h5, but play bishop d7 by Bastien Lagrave was a good move. Bishop e3, and now black very good plays well the bishop with g6, bishop d7. Now we see that while now lost the tempo of king e1 because the king is bad place on d1. Now the position is more or less symmetrical. The only difference is the bishops, that the white have the bishop on e3 and black have the bishop on d7. And the other difference is that the white king cannot be castled. So rook c1, and Battier is still playing symmetrical with rook c8, but here was stronger to take a space in the king side with h5. That's the best move. Because if white doesn't play h4, we are going to play h4 ourselves. If white plays, I don't know, maybe f4, now we're going to play h4. That's the idea of h5. And if white plays h5, now the white this include these two moves of h5, h4. This is going to benefit black. Why? Because later white plan is going, for example, if now we go sword castle, rook c8, I don't know. White plan is going to be to play f4. Sorry, I play king f8. Sorry, king. Fuck. 1 second. Okay, here. If white play h4, for example, we can play rook c1, rook c8, and this benefit blacks because later white plan is going to be play f4, and now we have a good hold on g4. I don't say that we're going to place now a bishop there, but white have created a hole in the g4 square. So and with the move h5, we doesn't weakness nothing. So that's why includes the move h5, h4 benefit black because white plan is going to be f4, and now a hole is created on the g4 square. So, for example, white can continue like this. And okay, maybe at the first glance, the g4 hole cannot look uh, so important in the game, but okay, now we see that if white takes, now we can take with the knight, and later the knight is coming to g4. So in the future, the g4 hole is going to be important. So that's why h5 was so good, because if white doesn't play h4, we are going to play. And if he plays h4, you didn't want to play h4 with f4. So h5 here was the best move. To top that, but Ser play rook c8, who after h5 is the move who equals the position. I'm stopping here more time because I think that it's important to understand how to play this type of position with black. If you play, yes, if you are going to reach that against the English. So the problem of rook c8 is that now after f4, now the white king is going to go to f2, and like white is slightly better thanks to his, yes, his central f4 pawn is important. So sword castle, king f2, rook f d8. The machines prefer bishop f5 and rook a8 a little bit, but okay, bishop f d8, rook h d1, fine. No, 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 okay, the position is still being more or less equal, but white have an extra pressure, especially with his bishops. And white have the f4 pawn and give white some space. The white king is a little bit better place. The bishop is a little bit better place. So especially the king, the bishop, and this pawn give white a small advantage. Here was stronger to play bishop e6, Queen not easy, of course, because you are giving to white the tempo. So, but the problem of but yes, you should make that and improve your bishop and accept. Okay, what is white is slightly better, but black is more or less solid. The problem of bishop d8 is that now the bishop is so bad and is so passive on e8, and white have better bishop, slightly better king, and better pawn on f4. So now after trade and b3, very good move. Now white is threatening to play 95, so for that reason black trade on f3. But now I have the bishop pair, who in a game everybody knows that it's an advantage, f6. And now Artemiev decided to give the bishop pair to take a pawn and enter in a position with opposite color bishop, but a extra pawn. The machine doesn't like, but I think that in a rapid game, in a blitz game, it's a very good practical idea. Maybe in a classical position, no. In a classical game, no, because maybe in a classical game was better to try to put pressure with the bishop pair and go yes slowly, trying to create a more advantage with the bishop pair. But in the blitz game, why I think that bishop takes e6 is a very good idea in a blitz game. Okay, first, the knights in blitz used to be stronger than in classical games because there are so much forks and knights have so yes, the knights in a blitz game are so dangerous. And second thing is that now I have zero option of lose the game. I only play now for two results, or win or draw. Especially in Blitz game when you cannot control everything, it's used to be fine to reach a position when you can never lose. For of course, in this position, if you doesn't take on c6 in a classical game, you are not going to lose never the game. But in rapid, it's not the same. I think that in rapid, the black have more option to lose that in a classical game. So so with bishop c6, you can never lose this game. So in a blitz, it's a practical decision because, like I told, in a classical game, okay, you are not never going to lose with the bishop pair. But in a blitz, everything can happen. But after bishop c6, you have zero options to lose this game. And okay, like I told, in classical, this position could be, I'm not going to say easy, but yes, more or less easy. Uh, yes, defendable for black. Black maybe having so much problems to defend this position with time in the clock. But in a blitz game, the extra pawn is going to be annoying. But okay, objectively, bishop c6 is a bad move, but in the practical, I think that bishop c6 is strong. Bishop takes, bishop e7. Now, the problem is that here black have this defense idea who looks more or less easy to hold with rook a8. He tries to activate with rook d1, but I think that rook a8 could end the white hopes more or less early. Bishop c5, rook you take here. Okay, at least white is going to take on e7, but now I think that this position is easier to hold. Yes, because the pawn is not so problematic to lost. Rook d1, and now he's start to advance the queenside pawns, still advancing. But black in some moment he should try to create counterplay with the rook, attacking this pawn, for example. If h4, bishop b5, now attack e2, but black should start to attack pawns because the problem of king e8 is that you are not making nothing and white is still attacking pawns. Here, white decides to go directly with a6, who is fine, but have a refutation. Bishop c5 followed by g4 was interesting. I analyzed the line or g4 DLD. But okay, a6 is playable. But the problem is that here black have this defender of king d7. But okay, white now have a pass pawn on the b file and black position is going to be so dangerous, especially in blitz. But he can create counterplay here with h5. Okay, he played rook a1, who is a mistake, because after take and bishop c5, of course it's not easy for black to play because this position looks, yes, the position is close to be equal according to the machine, and the position is close to be lost, so that's not so easy to understand why. But now again, h5 was the best move to try to create counterplay, but he just played in the wrong moment. Because after rook b1, rook a3, here that's the only move, only moment in the game where h5 is not the best move. Here was stronger rook h1 attacking the pawn, but like I told, it's so difficult for black. After h5, he just rook a7 attacking e7, e6, but now the second rank is open and the black rook is so active. So now it's not only the extra pawn, is I have the extra pawn, but a very strong bishop on c5 and all the control of the 7 rank. So rook e7, king d8, rook g7, f5, and he finally take the second pawn and with 2 pawns up. Now the position is winning, the third pawn falls. The position is now he finally sacrificed the rook for the last pawn, and Yes, white position is winning, so Maxime resigned. So okay, 1 second, I'm going to change the result. Artemiev now have 5 points, and Maxime have four. So yes, very amazing game. I really like how Artemiev played this game, and I don't like how Battier played this game. Well, basically Artemiev plays so good. According to Mathieu, until here he was playing perfectly the same, and he made a very good practical decision, reaching this position with a pawn up in a blitz game. I'm sure that he in a classical game he doesn't take here, but in for blitz this is very good. And now understand if you play this endgame with black, that here you should play h5, threatening h4, and if he stops now, f4 is going to have less strength. So now Artemiev is again up in the score. So let's see if in the following game Maxim managed to tie the match, or finally Artemiev advanced to the next round. Bye bye, motherfuckers.